continue, and we're gonna have one more discussion here on the stage. We're gonna have 3 people over here. We'll get them wired, and we'll talk about the data security and survival guide for the startups. So I think in nowadays it's very important. I would like to invite here on the very stage Mr. Aidas Kavaliauskas, the co-founder of Amberlo. Let's give a big round of applause. Come on, paplokim, kolegos, palaikom. All right, thank you. Sveiki, hello. Please join us. Also here on the stage, we'd like to invite Aurelija Rutkauskaitė. Aurelija is the head of the data protection at the Triniti Jurex. Hello.
Hello.
And we have our moderator. This is Martynas, Mockus, co-founder of the Vilnius legal hackers. That sounds amazing. We want to hear all about that. So grab a seat and have a good time.
Thank you. So, guys, how you feel today? How you feel here by participating, not somewhere in your home, in your bed, but lively here? Do you feel well? Yeah, good. Okay, so today we have a quite interesting session for those who are planning to work with startups, have interesting ideas about data-driven business, because it's very risky business, and if you will fail, probably you will lose your clients, and it's the most important part. So today I'm very happy to present here 2 speakers. So maybe let's start from Aurelija. She is a lawyer, but I will ask Aurelija to speak not like that lawyers who speak in Latin phrases and nobody understands.
No, I will not do that.
So please, in human understandable language. And Aurelija, she is from. Sometimes you can see the commercial of Triniti, Jurex. So she is a partner of this company and attorney at law. And at the moment, she works a lot with startups, advising also in data protection and privacy issues, and also introducing IT and artificial intelligence solutions. So please welcome Aurelija. Okay, thank you. And Aidas. So I know Aidas personally about maybe 4 years. He is our guest in legal tech meetups, so in community where lawyers and tech guys meet. So Aidas is IT guy in general, yeah? We can present it. And he is also co-founder of Amberlo. So it's a very interesting solution. It's a solution where lawyers trust their data for the Amberlo, yeah, to keep safe, yeah? Am I right?
And we keep it safe.
Yeah. So very interesting 2 speakers. And first, I would like to ask them to describe yourself. So what is your background? What domain experience do you have in information, data, knowledge, security? Aurelija.
I will start. Okay. So thank you, Martynas, for kind introduction. Yes, I'm attorney at law. I'm a partner at the law firm. I'm counting more than 15 years of experience, and my background is in IP law, intellectual property law. And at the moment, I'm mainly focusing on privacy, data protection, and various IT, IE solutions. So I'm not an IT lady or person, but still I'm forced to work with IT people, so I don't know their language and I don't speak Latin with my clients.
So in general, if I'm starting my startup, probably I will meet you, yeah?
Yes, if it includes some solutions with data, or if you are planning to hire some more people, And again, it would be some data processing, then you would come. And again, our law firm in general, we do work a lot with startups, and it's not about only data. We also help with investment, with fundraising, and so on and so forth. So we are known for representing startups.
Okay, thank you. And Aidas?
Well, as you said, I'm an IT guy, and I spent more than 20 years building and implementing software for top corporations. And I was also founder of the first venture capital funded IT company in the Baltics. I'm a co-founder at Amberlo, and let's say why I'm here today is that when you develop mission-critical software that's responsible for managing high-value assets and sensitive data and lots of users, so cybersecurity is one of the most important aspects, and we used to work along with top security experts in the project, so I have some hands-on experience. I'll try to share it today.
No, that's amazing. So, because like we need to speak about data privacy, and I would like to start with Aurelija, and to ask Aurelija, like, because I have a lot of questions. So maybe you can answer what 5 survival key points you could advise for startups, and what you must know about data privacy. And when startup team should start thinking about data privacy, policies, those boring documents and so on, GDPR compliance, and etc. And if we talk about technology readiness levels, so in which level we should start? Is it just before we think the idea, or we are launching already some minimal, like valuable technology? So what you can advise for them?
Of course, I could talk about privacy whole day, probably as well as you, but if to say only 5 things, I would start with the idea that privacy and security, or data privacy and data security, is not the same thing. It's related. You have to have both in your company, but data privacy is not only about security, it's also about the compliance with legal acts and about the rights and freedoms of individuals. So don't forget that security, even though is essentially important, it's not the only thing that you have to think of. You also have to think about legality, about gathering legally the data that you would use, about legal rules on sharing the data, storing and managing, and so on and so forth. Also, we do talk a lot about GDPR these days, and my idea about GDPR is that this legal act is not about boring rules or bureaucratical burdens, but about transparency. All those rules are to help you to be as transparent as you can and to help you explain for yourself what you have in your company and what data is essential and important for you and would lead you to succeed, and to be able to explain what data you have to data subjects or your clients. And it is very important because the third thing that I wanted to share or to discuss is that actually not the company is the owner of the data, it's a data subject. The data the company is only borrowed for some use and for some time. So when you start thinking about data as a borrowed thing, then you just have this other perspective and you start respecting it. And of course, every startup has to know about legal consequences for being not compliant. I don't like to talk about the penalties, but well, they are huge. And it's not only about the penalties, it's also about reputation of the company. And here I would like to come to the point that Martynas made, and the question when to start thinking about privacy. I would say the earlier the better, because you can have a brilliant idea, a brilliant solution, but if it's not by design and default compliant with privacy laws, you might not be able to sell it or commercialize it. So the earlier the better, at the very stage of idea, I guess. And the last thing I would like to share is that when you are planning your business, if you are planning working not only in Europe, you should not forget that GDPR is not the only legal act that you have to follow. If you are planning your business abroad, then it comes to many more legal rules.
Yeah, if you work in Belarus, then you have to give all the data.
Yes, it's an issue, and if you have to share your data with Belarus, then some legal forces come, and then you have to introduce some legal remedies to remedy this risk that you have while sharing data with not safe countries.
Okay, so thank you a lot. And now let's switch to Aidas, because yeah, Aidas actually, as he said, that he has like more than 20 years experience, yeah, in cloud computing.
Yeah, so we started building cloud before the term was invented.
Wow.
So I think the term was invented around 2006.
Okay.
I mean, well, like officially introduced, but and we started around 1999, where we built worldwide's first cloud-based core banking system. So this was a little bit ahead of the official term.
So you started to work, and only later you understand that you are working with.
Yeah, we didn't have this term. We didn't use this term.
And how you called?
Just, I mean, just the banking system.
Okay, that's amazing. Okay, so Aidas, you have really a lot of experience, and maybe you could say, because like lawyers, like here you see this nice lady, they're trusting data to you, yeah? And how do you protect? Maybe you can advise to startups how you protect that data. Do you pay for those bad and good guys, like gray or black or white hackers, or like to be protected? Or I don't know, maybe you could advise maybe startups, they are not, they are in general invisible in this market, and nobody cares, and they are too small, and you cannot ask like to pay for the data from them. So how in general, how does it work?
Yes, just as you asked quite a few questions, so starting with the paying to good and bad guys. We do pay to the good guys. We never pay to the bad guys because there was no good reason to do that so far. And we like to keep it this way. So when it comes to startups, I think there is no such thing as being invisible. Because as also we shortly discussed today, there are, for example, hacker groups which are specifically targeting startups, and they try to, let's say, hook on them before they scale and before they really take some serious cybersecurity measures. So, and of course, as soon as you are online, then you are under constant threat. And also Amberlo is under constant attacks, and we're facing attacks from all the famous destinations like China, Pakistan, Russia, also Balkans, and we have one big fan from Serbia who is continuously trying to hack us. And but of course we have taken the right measures from the very beginning, because I think not because we were, just capable to plan in advance. I think we had quite interesting journey before Amberlo, and this experience allowed us to prepare, let's say, before starting with before launching the product. And so we have employed several principles, and one principle is cybersecurity by design. which means that whatever we do, everything is completely sealed as a rule of thumb, and we only open the very minimum that is necessary to be able to communicate between the systems or to provide the services to the clients, and so on. So the second rule is that initially we decided to go cloud only, which means that we do not have any assets inside the company, let's say, except the let's say simple network that is running Wi-Fi, and we also treat this network as good as any other Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi in the in the Starbucks or in any other area. And also, what is very important to think also upfront. I mean, also to think about cybersecurity when you plan your architecture. And like, for example, we use microservices, which means that everything is quite simple and well isolated, and it's easy to manage. If you do something else, that might be more of a challenge. And it's very, very important also when you choose where you host your solution, not to save money because the local service provider is a few bucks cheaper, but go for Amazon or Microsoft because or Google, because those guys, they invest massively in their solutions and also in protecting the infrastructure. And if initially it doesn't even matter because the cost difference is not significant, and but also in the future, let's say the price for losing the data would be way higher than few bucks paid for a premium service provider. Also, complete separation of development and production environments. Investing in industry-leading cybersecurity tools. So, for example, we are using tools that are continuously scanning our infrastructure, apps, and source code just to make sure that we do not leak something by accident. Using only strong encryption, and whenever you use strong encryption, you need to understand what kind of encryption it is and how it works and what it actually does, and where the keys are stored. And there were some stories recently where even like relatively large players, they were not managing these basic things, and so nothing. I mean, it's not a rocket science, but if you do it from the very beginning, and then you avoid surprises simply. So in our case, we are up and running for more than 4 years now, and so we didn't have any issues so far, and we had lots of tries. And also, just to give you one number, like 3 months ago, we announced open hacker contest, and in the first week we had more than 10,000 tries to break into the system. So this is quite, let's say, quite active area. So.
Oh, so you are saying that you are paying to the good guys, yeah?
Yes.
So do you have like compensation program for those who...
Sure. So depending on the vulnerability that is discovered, I mean, this is not like enormous amounts, like it's up to 2,500 euro typically, but for something really evil. I mean, we didn't manage to pay more than 150. That was, let's say, the maximum discovery made by the hackers. But yeah, it's and also these bounty programs, they pay off. I think so. Actually, guys managed to find few small things which could become pretty nasty. And well, not that they would be able to steal the data, but for example, theoretically, they could use our service to to spam some targeted audience, and then who knows, let's say, how far this could go. Like I mean, they could use it potentially for social for conducting social engineering attacks and so on. So, and of course, we sealed those small gaps as well within the days.
Okay, thank you, Aidas. Aurelija, Aidas already started to talk about mistakes, and you a little bit, but could we identify like 3 mistakes? Because, okay, I know that you can identify a lot, but just like maybe you could identify 3 mistakes which like young teams which are starting business, they do in the domain of data privacy. And also I have another question. You can also start thinking about it, what to do if we already have like data breach. So what are the first steps, what to do, how to deal with that problem?
Okay, talking about those mistakes, I would say there is one major mistake, and we already talked about that. Then a startup or a small company says that I don't have enough money or enough knowledge for investing or just educating myself in data and privacy, then it could lead to a big problem because, well, as I said, you can have a brilliant idea and brilliant solution, but if it's not safe, then nobody would trust you. And, well, it was a nice introduction to the second topic that I want to talk about. Aidas said that they have constant hacker attacks from various countries, and what privacy lawyers used to say, there is no such thing as absolute security or maximum security. You should think that not if the data breach would happen, but when it would happen, and prepare for the data breach. And if it happens, you have to follow certain rules or have some procedure or plan. And the basic thing is to know how to detect a data breach. And here I just talked a lot about scanning and searching for vulnerabilities. So when we are talking about detecting data breach, of course it depends on the breach itself. If you have lost your laptop, you simply cannot find it in your backpack, and it's obvious that you have a data breach. But when we are talking about sophisticated hackers attack, it might take some time to detect that something is happening. When you have detected that something is happening, then you have to assess whether it's a real data breach or maybe it's only a threat. Maybe you managed to close the doors on time. But if it happened to be a data breach, then after the assessment comes the reporting. GDPR made a burden to the businesses and the companies to inform authority, and you have only 72 hours to inform on every data breach that you have if it can lead to some negative consequences to data subjects. And if these consequences might be important, then you have to inform data subjects also. After that, you have to remediate, meaning you have to close the doors to hackers. Maybe you have to somehow block the damage that would come and to remedy the damage that's already done. Then you have to go back to business, then reassess, meaning that you might learn from what has happened. Maybe you have to improve your safety or your processes. And after that, you have to close and make the tick that the issue is solved by documenting it. And, well, of course, you have to be prepared for all this stuff, so you have to have certain procedure or certain set of rules in your company, or at least a plan.
It's very nice that you mentioned that you have how to find out that you already had data breach, because like we had that case with one online gambling company, Lithuanian company, and already they had the breach, I don't know, maybe 4 years, if I'm right, and only when we had a CTB data breach, only then
they realized
that data was took to, and discussed in the society. So, yeah, it's very important to check what is happening in that another world. Aidas, maybe you, as IT guy and that who pays for the good guys, maybe you can first to identify the 3 mistakes which are done by young teams,
Yep.
and how to avoid it.
Good question. 3 mistakes. Well, the first mistake, which I often see, that startups do not own the technology, which means that somebody has business idea, and then they find the outsourcing partner, and the outsourcing partner is developing, let's say, the MVP, and then no one exactly knows, no one knows exactly how it works. So, and then this MVP goes live, then you start getting data, then somebody is breaking in, and that's it. So, my advice for startups would be own the technology. If you are building tech startup, you must own the technology. Besides cybersecurity aspects, this is also critically affecting the value of the startup. So it makes sense from any perspective to own it. The second mistake is that, and this is partially related to the first mistake, that often digital assets, they're lying around and no one can really tell which assets, where they are, how they're exactly configured, and who can access what, and let's say where a production service, where a development service, what's the process, where backups are stored, are they encrypted, how they're encrypted, and how often they are made, and so on. So this is, or for example, somebody is storing the backups and the data in the same physical location. And one might say that, well, but data centers, they are very safe today, but yes, and generally yes, but recently there was a big fire at one of the major service providers in Poland, and one legal tech company was off completely because by chance just the data and the backups, they were in the same building, and then everything was burning. So and the third mistake is that there is no plan, no clear plan what to do when bad things happen. Like, for example, just starting with the simple thing, like somebody plugs off the electricity, or the server burns, or say somebody in some way gets your backup. What happens next? How quickly you can restore the system? How well is your backup protected? And so on. So, and it's not enough only to write the plan on paper, but it's also important to try, to follow this plan, to simulate the situation, and to make sure that your plan is actually working.
Yeah, and also we could share to the young teams that all those rules or ideas what to check, we can find in international standards for information security, and management of information security. So,
well, there are standards, there are books, there are forums, there is like lots of different materials, and it's actually, it must not get overcomplicated, but just having basic things like owning technology, knowing where your assets are, and how they are configured and protected, maintaining your system, minimizing access to the systems and to the information, just to make sure that only those who are authorized can have an access, and so on. So, and this is again, you do not need to spend like millions on that. So you just need to invest your time. Maybe having an expert involved in the process for a certain period of time. Let's say to help you, to make the initial setup, and then let's say also time to time to assess the situation and make the recommendations and so on. So. This must be done, let's say, because otherwise bad things will happen. It's just a matter of time.
And okay, Aidas, let's imagine that for the young team, which do not have like a lot of resources, data breach has happened. What to do for them? how to avoid like a very big big problems, let's say.
Yes. Well, I think it depends on what kind of breach you have, because sometimes the big problems they can be unavoidable. So I would still focus on not having it. But if it happened, so first thing, let's say, switch everything on, understand what happened, communicate to your clients, think twice before what to communicate to the regulator, because he might come, let's say, after you, and yeah, then also inform your clients how long will it take for you to come with the recovery plan, and then prepare the recovery plan. Communicate again how long will it take to get back, to get everything back, and yeah, fix the holes and switch everything back on, and inform the clients if they need to do something from their side. But I would also involve a lawyer in this process, because keeping in mind the GDPR, and I mean, if there are live clients, if they were affected, if there was some real data leaking, I mean, not just somebody cracked the system, but it was like Hello World system, so who cares? But if there was sensible data, if then things might get very expensive. So so having a lawyer, let's say, who has like a phone switched on 24 hours per day is a good idea as well.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you for your interesting insights. We have some questions, and those who participate here also could join to online system and ask questions here. So maybe I will ask Aurelija, because some anonymous is asking about CTB situation. Maybe you could comment. I don't know what you can, of course, to comment, but maybe you can comment what we have learned from this situation. Yeah.
Well, the main thing, I guess, what we learned from the station, that Lithuania is interesting and an important state for the hackers, and nobody is secure or protected from being hacked. And also what we learned, it's for me, it's a good example to show to the clients that hacking happens. Nobody is being like, well, it just happens. You cannot prevent it. There is no such thing like maximum security, and always you should think that it's not about only hacking. It might be a human mistake. Your employee may do some stupid things, and then it would go to nasty data breach. And this helps me to show that you have to be prepared and have a plan. So as Aidas said, think about involving lawyer in the situation, and also I would say think about involving some PR people in the situation, because it's not only the penalties that are standing behind your back, but it's also about the reputation, and this huge scandal is all about the reputation, I guess, and not about the real harm that was done to the data subject, because we do not have any evidence that somebody really suffered from that incident, only that some data was leaked, and it's in the internet and surfing there.
Yeah, I would like also to add a little bit that at the moment, let's say, lawyers still are not ready to deal with such a huge, let's say, legal situations where we have like a lot of clients. And I know that in the beginning, after the CTB breach, like a lot of people started to say that we are going to the court with CTB, and we are going, I don't know, to ask to pay like 300 or something. So if you count on the users and how many users was on the list, so you can understand that it's bankruptcy, even for such a company. But later we have found that lawyers still they are not ready. There is no such let's say system for those crowd-based
Suits.
suits. So Aidas, like guys like he's developing those tools for lawyers.
Yep.
Yeah, and probably in the I don't know, maybe next time when we will have similar breach, already lawyers will have such tools which can, you know, like deal with those like 10,000 of clients in the same time. So that's a huge problem because then, like for all startups, they need to hire a lawyer or to start in the beginning. I know that those startups who are based in incubators, they have some access to the lawyers, so they have to start talking about it. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
And we have the last question, and last minute, maybe I will ask Aidas. Also, Anonymous asks, how to know if my company is ready to handle a cyber attack?
Just, you know, try to organize one. So, it's easy.
Yeah.
There are, you know, plenty of hackers out there. So just announce the hacker contest. Say, allocate funds, and you will have enough people who will, you know, take a chance.
Okay.
And that's very easy.
That's great advice, actually.
But what I would do before, you know, the announcing hacker contest, I would just create a separate environment for them, because if they will, you know, crack your live system, that will not be funny at all.
Okay. So, what last sentence you would like to share before leaving this nice place?
Okay, so my last idea maybe that I would like to share is when you have, or the more data you have, the more responsibility comes with that. So just know that data is an asset that you have to value. It's only borrowed to your company, it's not your ownership. So it drives responsibility along with the money that it can gain. So it's worth investing in protecting it.
Okay, thanks. Aidas?
Well, I would recommend also to invest in terms and conditions, and also involving lawyer, because if you do not, for example, if you do not have the liability clause, might get tricky. So use professional lawyers, and we have one very professional lawyer with us here. And I think at some point it will pay off.
Okay. So thanks a lot, Aurelija and Aidas, for very interesting insights.
Thank you.